Sonic team has officially confirmed that its next Sonic game will be coming sometime next year, with a formal reveal set to take place in a month. One popular discussion that always seems to come up between members of the fandom is whether Sonic should continue speeding along in the world of 3D or bring it back to the basics of 2D. As we await the reveal of the new Sonic game, what are you hoping it's going to be? Like many other characters, Sonic made his full 3D debut back in the 5th generation. It came in the form of Sonic Adventure, and then Sonic Adventure 2 followed a few years later. Both titles are some of the highest selling games on the ill-fated Dreamcast. Despite the fact that their original platform crashed and burned, many still consider the adventure games to be some of the best in the series, and the best 3D Sonic games overall. Personally, I'm not too sure about that. The core component behind the Sonic games has always been speed. While other platforms consistently focused on slow-paced accuracy, Sonic games were designed with one goal in mind: get from point A to point B in the fastest time possible. The formula worked just fine in 2D, but translating the same idea into 3D has proven to be a daunting task. The 2D perspective worked primarily due to the fact that Sonic's high speed forced players to learn the level layouts and anticipate the dangers ahead. Since there was no way to see what was in front of you, that element of surprise and punishment helped shape the experience. The sense of speed also benefits from it since there's only one direction to go in. This all changes when it comes to 3D. In 3D, Sonic now has freedom of movement, not to mention incoming dangers are clearly visible. Seeing that Sonic is still a platformer first and foremost, obstacles and jumping segments are pretty much a necessity. The issue is, while the sense of speed fundamentally remains the same as it is in 2D, coming to a grinding halt is all the more obvious when platforming is necessary. This was incredibly apparent in games like Sonic Unleashed, Colors, and Generations due to the high increase in speed over the other 3D Sonic games. Sonic Lost Worlds shows just how much trouble Sonic team has with properly translating the high-speed formula in a 3D environment. The developers decided to not only make Sonic more agile, but also gave players even more control over his speed. Sonic has always control similar to that of a car. Unlike other characters, he would gradually move faster the longer you held the directional button. In Lost Worlds, a dedicated run button was added, effectively keeping Sonic's top speed at bay until the player actually wanted him to go fast. This can be likened to shifting a gear in a car from its lowest gear to its highest gear. But why was this done? Sonic team has had the dilemma of balancing Sonic's speed along with how controllable he is, as well as how he interacts with the platforming elements. Moves like the homing attack and ring dash were added just to help translate the formula better in a 3D environment. Because the 2D games are so reliant on building momentum, this made it all the more harder to make Sonic look and feel right from a 3D perspective. That brings us to Sonic Unleashed. This is arguably the game that marked Sonic Team's true revolution when it came to creating a proper 3D Sonic game. Sonic had some pretty fast moments in his past 3D games, but most of the time you were mostly just sauntering along. Sonic Unleashed basically removed all restrictions and finally emphasized the Mach speed that Sonic is truly capable of. I've already used the analogy of a car, but allow me to use it one more time. Just like how some tuned up street cars use nitros, Sonic Team basically attached a natural nitros tank to Sonic in Unleashed. While this boost mechanic was actually introduced in Sonic Rush on the DS, Unleashed was the first 3D Sonic game to fully use it. This led to it being referred to as the Unleashed formula, but Unleashed brought yet another change: dynamic perspectives. Sonic Team flirted with the idea all the way back in the recreation of Green Hill in Sonic Adventure 2, but it was turned into a core mechanic for Unleashed. Many fans were surprised to see the game ebb and flow between 2D and 3D perspectives, but it ended up working out really well. Sonic Team put an even stronger emphasis on the 2.5D style with Sonic Colors, with about 80% of the game stages being almost completely locked in the 2D perspective. Sonic Generations pretty much perfected the formula entirely with its focus on playing two different versions of the same stage. Even though it had the alternating stages, modern Sonic's levels still included 2D sections of their own. This shows just how much Sonic Team prefers the 2D perspective. Despite so many franchises making the jump to 3D during the 5th and 6th generations, there are some that actually came back to 2D later on. Rayman and Donkey Kong are two examples of this, with both franchises featuring games that were marketed as being a return to the roots. There are even some franchises that actually never truly left the 2D realm, like Kirby, who still actively embraces the classic perspective despite the advance in technology. Sonic has also returned to 2D in a big way. Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Episodes 1 and 2. Being the continuations of the classic Genesis trilogy, Sonic 4 was marketed as being a blast from the past. But why return to the 2D realm? Or in Kirby's case, why never leave? 2D and 3D really do have a pretty big gap between them. Most platformers have done fine transforming into 3D, but some mechanics simply work better in 2D. In Kirby's case, perhaps the developers have simply concluded that there's no need to bring the franchise into 3D because it works just fine in 2D. In Sonic's case, the gameplay is a mixed bag. Sonic works in 3D, but the best demonstration of this almost makes him feel like a race car on steroids. Sonic Lost World did a good job at allowing Sonic to make the best use of his environment, but at the cost of keeping his speed in check. Well, to an extent. So the question still remains, which is better? Exclusively, both perspectives have their merits and issues. 2D allows for Sonic to have a better focus on momentum, and the elements of surprise and punishment are present. However, Sonic's moveset is fairly limited. On the other hand, 3D offers a greater emphasis on speed and allows for a cooler, more cinematic looking experience. However, platforming becomes a challenge because it's just naturally slow. That's why the dynamic perspective of the Unleashed formula has ended up working so well. This has allowed Sonic Team to take the best factors from both perspectives and create an experience that looks and feels good. While there are some fans that prefer one or the other, having them both work in tandem with each other performs better than having them separated. Even after saying all this, the question still falls on you. For Sonic's new game, what are you hoping that Sonic Team is doing? Creating a brand new 2D blast from the past? Or a brand new fully 3D adventure? Sound off in the comment section below.